So I'm excited myself to see that change and be a part of it. So next up we have Carlos Perez from the Hawaiian Electric Company. Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you, Ken. Ted, Margaret, Debet, thank you very much for inviting Hawaiian Electric to this very unique opportunity to share some of the things that we have been doing and are doing to get ready for electric vehicles. Nope. Maybe we are ready for electric vehicles. The laptop is not. There we go. Okay. So I understand we have a few people visiting. So just a quick overview of who we are. Hawaiian Electric, Maui Electric, Hawaiian Electric Light, an idea on the number of customers, the capacity, and the amount of renewables that we have in the system. 95% of the state's 1.2 million residents receive electrical service from us. See how's there you go. Hawaii Clean Energy Goals. We talked about it earlier, 70% clean energy by 2030. Electricity is a key component. 40% renewables, that's our goal. And in the little pie, you can see how important transportation plays a significant role here in this endeavor. I wanted to throw a picture early on. This is from the Electric Power Research Institute, EPRI. We work with them quite a bit. And just to paint a picture of the relative magnitude on kilowatt hours on energy that an electric vehicle consumes relative to some of the more familiar appliances that we see in our homes nowadays. And it'll give you a relative picture of how much consumption they have. Those calculations, by the way, on the right-hand side on the vehicles, I believe were done about, assuming about 12,000 miles a year. To us, what's truly key and important is the impact of the load on the system. And there is several levels that we need to look at. Here's another slide based on a study that EPRI did on a utility on the East Coast. By the way, we're doing work with EPRI to do similar study with us here in 2 of our circuits. But if you take a look at the assumptions, it gives you a picture of what kind of system they were looking at. In urban settings, summer peak, about 3,000, a little south of 3,000 residents. They made an assumption. Electric vehicle penetration about 10% and a level 2 charging. And you can see at the low profile, that's a 24-hour low profile at a substation. Starting at 0, going all the way to the night. You can see on the right-hand side, after 9 p.m., that's what we call the off-peak time. And you can see the low profile. You can see the little red hump on the top. That's what they estimated would be the impact of that 10% penetration on that substation feeder. It's not really that big to begin with, but what's more important, that red hump is based on doing nothing. Essentially, you just plug in your car. If you look at the case number 2, which is the little blue hump that we shifted on the right-hand side, that's when we actually start applying time of use rates. And you've seen that effectively you have the potential to shift that hump over to the right and start flattening that load and some of the concerns that people may have about the impact at that level. Green is the 3rd level of technology that can be brought by essentially the VSC suppliers, which is now you get smart charging involved. And what that is you have time of use, and on top of that, you actually can program when specific vehicles in a circuit start and stop charging. So you stagger the charge, and now you achieve that flattening effect really on the load. Planning is key. It's key for us. This is the reason we're here. For us, we want electric vehicles to be an excellent, outstanding customer experience. From a service standpoint, from a rate standpoint, we want to know, we want to hear from you if you're interested in purchasing one. The sooner we know, the better off. We can start some of the preparation, start doing some analysis, start getting a picture of there may be any potential impacts on the circuit. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. We're also heavily involved in bringing EVs into our own fleet, working with several stakeholders around the room, EVSE chargers, applying for ARA funding for some of our projects related to EV, and essentially bringing together and being a key partner in developing a comprehensive local charging infrastructure plan for the state. Knowing if you're interested in EV is really important, as I said. The sooner we know, the better off. It allows us to start modeling some of the circuits. It allows us to start assessing circuit penetration, facilitates the EV rates that I'm going to show in a little bit, the proposed EV rates that we filed with the Public Utility Commission, and perform any systems upgrades early on if they are needed. A couple of slides on some of the key activities that we've been working on. We file proposed EV time of use pilot rates with the Public Utility Commission. We're a key partner in the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative. We're a partner in the EEI electric vehicle commitment, which essentially is utilities across the United States taking the same type of steps that we're taking here locally to do outreach, communication, infrastructure, preparation, and rate development. We've done 4 plug-in hybrid conversions as part of R&D work through Idaho National Lab and others. We're working in partnership with several EVSC providers and applying, as I say, for ARA funds to develop and deploy some of our projects, developing internal processes, and research and development. Idaho National Lab, I mentioned a little bit about that in the conversion, but with EPRI, Electric Power Research Institute, will be getting a GM Volt, one of the early versions, to test next year. We'll be getting Hawaiian Electric Light, and the Big Island, we're getting 2 plug-in hybrid bucket trucks, again, part of our funding with EPRI, and we have other initiatives working with them, including the distribution analysis on 2 of the circuits that I mentioned earlier on. Talk a little bit about the proposed EV pilot rates that I mentioned earlier we filed with the Public Utility Commissions. These are optional rates. What that means is that you don't have to choose to be on these rates. You can still plug your vehicle in your EVSC and still get power. There is 2 residential flavors and 1 commercial. There will be an off-peak charging rate, the fuel energy charge, 2 cents above the base fuel energy charge. And I have a little bit of a description picture that hopefully will help explain a little bit more of the rate. The enrollment, it's a pilot rate, so it'll be limited to 1,000 customers on Oahu, 300 in the Big Island, 300 in the Maui service territory, including Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. And the pilots have a utility provision for low-profile data gathering and load control. So I was trying to think through a way that hopefully I can efficiently explain how a time of use rate applies to electric vehicles and put it in context of what we're used to seeing, which is our residential rates for most part. And I thought of this wheel donut type of diagram. I'll start with this and walk through it. But essentially what you have here is a representation of the basic, it's the energy charge for a residential rate, energy charge only, doesn't include the ECARC and IRP, but it'll provide you a measure of relative in respect to the other components of the time of use rate. You'll see in a second what that is. You'll have the 3 cutoff times, 7 a.m., 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., that's the off-peak, and 5 p.m., which delineates the on-peak and mid-peak, and you see that in a second. So this is how it works. All right, so that's a relative, it's not to scale, but it gives you an idea of the off-peak charge for these time of use rates will look something like this. In other words, between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m., if you charge your electric vehicle, that's the kind of savings that you would be achieving in relation to your residential rates nowadays. This is, I mentioned earlier, we have 2 types of residential rates. One is with a single meter for the whole house. That's the case that I'm covering now. In other words, your whole household, all the load in your house, including the electric vehicle, will be metered by a single Hawaiian Electric meter. And the whole house will, the time of use rates that you're seeing would apply to the whole house. We'll have a mid-peak period that will look like that. and of course the on-peak period, which is a little bit, slightly bit bigger. Okay, so hopefully this kind of paints a picture how it works. So let me walk you through, again, this is the single meter case. Let me walk you through the other residential case option, which is 2 meters. You leave your house on the existing meter, but you actually provide a separate meter only for the EV load. Okay, so start again with a basic wheel, residential rate, nothing has changed. We have the off-peak is the same for both of them. No change there. And for the case of the 2 meter, you only have an on-peak rate, which will look like this all around. And essentially, the only load being metered out of that is the electric vehicle. We also have a commercial rate with demand and on-demand. I'm going to move right here and start pacing. I think we need to kind of get moving a little bit here. But essentially, you'll see the same dynamics going on. The off-peak, we have the on-peak, and for the G and J, the same sort of dynamics. An idea of, by the way, the commercial rate option is separately metered. So all your electric vehicles in that scenario will have a separate meter, so it's just electric vehicle load. This gives an idea of cost per mile. This based on some very basic assumptions. There was some discussions early on, 26.5 miles per gallon. That's the ICV case that we took for this analysis. And you can see the EV range, 100 miles and 24 kilowatt hour battery. And you can see a level of the relative cost per mile for both scenarios. Okay, in summary, we want this to be an excellent customer experience for everybody. We want to know early on, as soon as possible, if you're interested in purchasing an EV. We want to be able to do analysis in the system and upgrade if needed. So it's important that you tell us as soon as possible if, even if you have a remote interest in the technology and you're even considering, we would like to know. We have, let me flip to this slide, and essentially we have a HECO.com website that has a lot of information on EVs, but more importantly, we have a new email address where we would like for you to contact us, tell us if you have any questions, and tell us if you are interested in purchasing an EV or considering purchasing an EV. We're also working on developing a phone line, which most likely will go something along 54-something GO EV. We're still working on that, making sure that the extension when you dial it ends up in the right place, not in a conference room. So that will be shortly will be announced forthcoming. But again, thank you very much for having us here. We want this to be a very pleasant and exciting experience for all of us. We're very excited to be part of the team. It takes the whole. It's an effort that it takes all of us, the community, to make it happen, and I think we're well positioned to do so. Thank you very much.
It's great. Thank you, Carlos. Really nice presentation, and really strikes me of how, as we use this term revolution, how, so many different parties are really a part of the revolution to electric vehicles, and how the electric vehicles touches a broad range of parties that are involved.